So with that, I would like to present to you Mr. Myles Himmelreich.
How is this guy still alive? Holy, this guy's amazing. All right, well, thank you, Liz. All right, so some of these things I knew about, and some of them I didn't. And as time's gone on, I've learned more about them. As I said, it was good to know these things because then I learned more about myself. So to start off, I was in approximately 6 different homes before the age of 3. So to understand the individual that you're working with, supporting, living with, whatever the case may be, we need to look at the secondary issues as well. Not just simply how the child's reacting, but where those reactions are coming from. What the issue is. Too often it's seen as it's a behavioral thing. And so they're bad. They're not listening, they're not behaving, they're bad. But let's back it up a little bit and find out why they're not listening. Why they're behaving the way they are. There's a reason behind it. So you see here I was 2.5, almost 3 years old in 6, 7 different foster homes. You're going from one place to another every couple days, every couple weeks. Here's a new mom and dad, and then they're gone. How do I ever trust that someone's going to stay around and truly love me when everyone keeps leaving? So I feel very alone. So how do I say, oh, this is what's going on for me, if I can't trust in anyone enough to share this and be honest with them? So here I was, went into this new home, age 3, got adopted. It seemed like a good home. They were good people, and they had a few kids of their own, and they'd been fostering. And they sat me down and said, what do you think about being part of our family? You see, you've been here for now, it had been probably about 1.5 years that I had been with Brian and Christine, and they said, what do you think about being part of this family? And I looked at them and I said, I thought I was. And they said, well, you are, but we want to make it legal. We want to adopt you. And I said, okay. So I thought, okay, sounds good. Here's going to be, a mom and a dad. They're going to stick around for a while. That sounds good to me. So we went through with the adoption process, and adoption went through. Around the same time, I sat down with Brian and Christine, and as Liz said, I had hearing problems because of my ear infections. Now, my ear infections were so bad that they would burst and bleed. So they're extremely, extremely painful. So if something bursts and bleeds, obviously it doesn't feel comfortable. But if you're too young to understand how to explain that, how does that act out in behavior? Screaming, yelling, hitting, running. I'm not going to stand there and go, my ears sure hurt right now. I'm going to scream and yell and So one of the problems that I had because of this was being able to hear the difference between certain words. Now, when I was born, my name was Terry. And Brian Christine's oldest biological son, his name was Carrie. And so quite often I misheard who they were calling, unless he was in trouble. Then I was like, nope, I heard that clearly. That was you. So they said, how about we change your name from Terry? And they said, you can choose your name. And I thought, okay, sounds great. So I thought about it for a bit, and I came back up to them, and I said, okay, I've got my name. And they said, all right, what do you want your name to be? And I said, He-Man. They said, He-Man Himmelreich? I was like, yes. They said, no. I said, okay, how about Smiles? And they said, okay, but how about we change a little bit and we call you Myles? I said, okay. Which I appreciate, because it would have been kind of weird, 17 years old going up to a girl, hi, I'm Smiles. So here I was, new family, new name, kind of a new start. Now when I was adopted, Brian and Christine, my parents, were told that I had at the time FAE, fetal alcohol effects. The biggest difference back then was if you had certain facial features and they knew there was alcohol intake during the pregnancy, then you were diagnosed with FAS, fetal alcohol syndrome. But if they knew that you didn't necessarily have all the facial features or they didn't seem quite as severe as other people's, but they knew there was alcohol intake, you were diagnosed with FAE, fetal alcohol effects. The problem with that was people thought, oh, if it's just FAE, it's not that big of an issue. So it was quite often dismissed and not really sure how to support an individual with FAE. So my parents went to the doctor and said, okay, so he has FAE, what does this mean? And the doctor looked at my dad and said, well, it means he has a smaller head. And my dad said, okay, we'll buy him a smaller hat. But what does this mean? And the doctor said, oh, it just means he has a smaller head. So my parents thought, okay. So here, this is all the information my parents had. Now, Liz just listed how many things that were caused from my FASD. And the only thing my parents were told, you'd have a smaller head. So you can see why there's a lot of things missed, a lot of things misunderstood, and why there wasn't necessarily the proper supports always put in place. Now, as I went into living with Brian and Christine, they had fostered over 70 different children, and they specialized in working with children with especially high needs. So they had all these different children and always were supporting them and always focused on the ability, not the disability. No matter where the child came from or what was going on, it was the focus of the ability. But my parents were quite often not sure what was going on with me, didn't understand things. My parents shared once that as a small child, they would put out food for me to eat, and I wouldn't eat. And they'd call me for dinner, and we'd sit down, and they'd try to make food, and I just wouldn't eat. And again, now I didn't know this at the time, but my mom shared with me and with Liz that this was very difficult for her, because here's her baby boy, she's trying to feed him. He doesn't eat. Now this is a child who's come from all these different homes who didn't get food, who didn't get those things that other small children did. So now we have this home and we can afford to give this child these things. And we're trying to give him food, we're trying to give him something to eat. He doesn't eat. Again, they didn't understand this, and so it was hard on them because they didn't know what to do. And they again took it on themselves that, well, are we doing something wrong? Fortunately, back then, there wasn't a lot of support for the parents either. It was kind of a, well, you do what you do, and hopefully it works. My parents went with the philosophy, you love them, you love them, you love them, and if that doesn't work, you love them some more. So I went into school, and school again was a place for me that was just going to be fun. Go hang out on the playground and play with the other kids. Now, as I went into elementary school, it's probably about grade 5 where I saw for myself, I'm different than the other kids. I don't quite fit in. Now, my parents saw some of this earlier on, and the teachers saw it earlier on that I was different than the other kids. That my reading and my writing and my speech was quite a bit behind where the other kids were. For them, they noticed this, and the changes started to take place back in grade 1. At the end of grade 1, I went and met with the school counselor and the person that was working on my speech with me throughout the year, and we were doing all these different tests and everything. I'd probably meet with her once a week. And I went to her office, and there was my mom and my dad and the school counselor, and I sat down. Now, I don't remember exactly how the conversation went, but it was something to the point of, we're going to have you repeat grade 1 so you can catch up to where the other kids were. The thing that I do remember is leaving that room with a big smile on my face, because I thought, teacher likes me so much, she wants me for another year. Okay, I'll repeat grade 1 for you. So here I was going back into grade 1. Now, as a child, I was a kid that came in the classroom and would go sit on my chair. And I would sit there, and teacher would say, hello, Myles, hello, students, let's sit down, and let's sit on our chairs. And I go, why do we sit on our chairs? Our chairs have 4 legs. We only have 2 legs, and I got to walk around. Why doesn't this chair walk around? You have 4 legs. You're just lazy, Mr. Chair. Okay, Myles, let's just sit down and relax. Okay, I'll sit. How long are we going to sit for today? Myles, we need to get this work done. Okay, we're working. I thought we were in school. Am I getting paid for this? If we're working, I should get paid. Myles, you need to just relax and focus. Okay, I'm focused. Like an owl. Woo-hoo, woo-hoo. You know what, Myles? Why don't you take the attendance to the office? Okay. Now, teachers would do things once in a while thinking, okay, that gets them out of my hair for a bit. Well, it did get me out of their hair, but then I'd pop in the other classes. I'm taking the attendance down. Does anyone want me to take their attendance too? I can take your attendance and your attendance. I can take attendance of all the attendance. Myles, please leave our class. So I would go to the class. And then I'd go and take the attendance down, and I'd come back to the classroom, and hello. Now, a lot of times these last few years, I hear, oh, couldn't focus at work. That was my ADD or my ADHD. And people just laugh it off. You know, we say that quite often. Oh, it's my ADD. Squirrel. But you don't ever hear anyone go, oh, it's my FASD. The unfortunate thing is that too many children now are being diagnosed with ADD or ADHD. Easy diagnosis, give them some medication, things will change. Now, I very well could have had ADD or ADHD, but had I been given the medication, what could have that looked like if I went in the classroom? Would I have got the work done? Maybe. But I would have came in the classroom and I would have sat down at the desk, would have did my work, would have went to recess and lunch and went home. But you would have lost who I was. I was a happy little boy with lots and lots of energy. You see, I had what I call bubble trouble. If you imagine millions and millions of bubbles in your body, constantly making your body move. So you're here, and then you're over there, and you're always moving. But you can't control it. It just happens. All these bubbles are in your body, constantly making you move all the time. So this played a big role when you're trying to sit there in the classroom and pay attention, and you can't, because your body's moving, and you can't control it. So how fair is that? You see, it was then that it was starting to become a thing of, how fair is it that my body reacts in certain ways and does certain things, and I don't have control over that? But who gets the consequences for the way my body acts? Who gets the blame? Me. Even though I can't control what's going on. So I sat in the classroom, having bubble trouble. As I sat in the classroom, I was in the room, and fluorescent lights on the roof flickering down at me going, hello. The girl beside me with too much perfume on, the smells were going, hello. The kid on the other side of me tapping the pen or pencil was grabbing my attention going, hello. The tags on my clothes, the fabric grabbing my attention going, hello. All these sensory issues were happening to me, grabbing my attention, but yet where's my attention supposed to be? Focused on this teacher who's sitting at the front. So I've got bubble trouble, I've got sensory overload, added on You have to learn about math, English, history, gym, cooking. All this information within one day. Information overload. I get the information in my brain, but it didn't go in categories, it didn't go in files, it just all mushed up in my brain. So when the teacher would look at me and say, what's the answer to the question that we just went over? I'm sitting there going like this. I don't know. What does it look like? He's not behaving. He's not listening. I couldn't control that. But even if I could, what kid, young teenager in elementary, junior high is going to go, actually, the reason I don't know the answer to the question is, you see, I have what's called fetal alcohol spectrum disorder, which causes me to have bubble trouble, sensory overload, information overload. And this was due to my mother drinking alcohol during her pregnancy, and FASD is a full body diagnosis. Even if I did understand half of that, what kid's going to stand up and say that? No. So not only am I now being seen as these things with behavioral issues, I'm now putting names on myself. I am lazy. I am stupid. I am dumb. I am that punk kid that doesn't care and is not going to try. Some of those names I heard from teachers, other kids in the classroom, or names I heard in my head. Now, these were names that I was starting to hear all day, every day. You think I want to go to this place and hear that all day and feel that every single day of my life? Again, I don't know what's going on with me. I don't know why I act the way I act. I don't know why I can't control my body. I don't understand. It doesn't make sense. So, school continues on. It was probably in, I think, grade 7, where I would be outside and I'd be on the playground, and all of a sudden I'd grab my side, and it would hurt. If I was standing, I couldn't sit down, but if I was sitting, I couldn't stand up. There was some kind of pain right around my hip. I didn't know what it was. This started in grade 7, so I was around 14 years of age. For the next 10 years, every once in a while I'd call up my dad and say, Dad, it's hurting again. I can't move. I can't stand. Or I can't sit. It hurts really bad. Now again, if I said something hurt, my parents knew, yeah, this really hurts, because I had a high threshold for pain. My dad would rush me off to the doctor. The doctor would say, oh, you know what, it might be a hernia, but it doesn't seem to be that big or that much of a problem, so we'll leave it. Started when I was 14 years old, and they just left it. Okay, you're the doctor. You know what's best, I guess, so okay, I'll just put up with this pain. Sure. So I did. Again, not understanding what was going on for me in how my body was formed. Now, I knew I always had ear infections and that always hurt, but I didn't understand, because of the way my jaw was and my face was that it made those ear infections even worse. All I knew was it would hurt here and then under my jaw, and then I'd get a ringing, pulsating in my ear, and it would hurt. And I'd try to sleep at night, and all you hear is in my ear. I'd wake up crying. It hurt so bad. I remember this happened for years and years and years. Now, I still get ear infections constantly, not quite as bad, but if I ever get a cold, a cough, or sniffles or anything, first thing that it goes to is my ears. Other things that were happening were things that, again, I didn't understand. So here I was, 16 years old, go to the mall, and me and a bunch of friends, we go to the mall, and We'd be like, oh, there's a bunch of cute girls. We go up to the girls and start talking to them and say, okay, what are you doing tonight? Do you want to go to a movie? So we go to the movie. Now here I am trying to impress this girl. So we're sitting there, and I've done the whole, got my arm around her, I'm looking good, I got my cologne on, and everything's going good. And then I reach down to have some popcorn. Now, next thing you know, she's looking at me, I've got my hand in my mouth, and I'm going, she's looking at me going, what are you doing? Gross. Probably not the best first impression, to have your hands in your mouth. Because the roof of my mouth is so high, I can't eat popcorn. It sticks to the top of my mouth. So I can never eat popcorn when I'm at the movies. Every once in a while I'll try, but I know now to just try with one. And then, no, can't do it. But I didn't know that at the time. Again, I didn't understand it. So what's it seen as by the girl? It's seen as behavior of disgusting, gross. What are you doing, you weirdo? You're on there going, I'm going to kiss you. Not knowing what's happening for me. So, as I started to go on through school, it seemed like all these things were happening that was, a struggle for me. That in the classroom, as I said, I was having the sensory overload and information overload, but that was when I could make it to class on time. You see, it started probably late elementary school, where I started struggling with even getting to school on time. I was always late. And it didn't matter what I did. It didn't matter if I packed my lunch and put my clothes out the day before. It didn't matter if I woke up an hour ahead. I was always late for school. So again, what happens when you're late for school? What's it seen as? Behavioral, you're being bad, you're not showing up on time. So again, I thought, okay, yeah, I'm being bad, I'm not showing up on time. Again, don't understand this. It's hard enough being a teenager. We all try to fit in, and you all want to be cool, and we're all trying to find our place as a teenager. But add on top of that all these other things that were going on for me. Life was very, very difficult. It made no sense. I thought all of these problems are associated to being in school. Once I get out of school, all these problems will go away. And life will become easier, and things will be better. Again, it just didn't make sense what was going on. So there had to be a reason behind it. So I figured the reason was school. So grade 11, thinking, okay, I just got to get through a couple more years here, we'll be done. Going into grade 11, I met these guys, and we started hanging out. Next thing you know, they invite me to their class or to their house, and we're hanging out at their house and have a beer. I have a beer with them for the first time I've ever drank in my life. Here I was, 17 years old. Had a beer, had a cigarette, did all these things. Because for the first time in my life, I was accepted. I didn't have to know how to read. I didn't have to know how to write. All I had to do was show up at these guys' house with a bag of weed or a case of beer, and they were going to be my friends. Here I was, 17 years old, and had never had a friend. How quick do you think I jumped on that? Oh, you want to be my friends? Okay, sounds good. You really care about me. You're really my friends. Let's party. Now, parties are supposed to be celebrations and good times. Yeah, this didn't last very long. So here I was, drinking. Now, when I drank alcohol, it was weird because, as I told you, I had all these bubble troubles in my body. But when I drank alcohol for the first time, it felt like my body went from to it was relaxed and calm. If you think about your friends or your coworkers and you go up to them on a Friday and you say, let's go for a beer. It has been a crazy week. You'll see the person literally go, oh, yeah, that'd be nice. Just relax and have a beer. Can you imagine what it's like to live in a body that is constantly moving, constantly going, all the time? Imagine how tired my body gets. And all of a sudden I found something that relaxes and calms my body. So this relaxes my body, this calms my body, and I get friends. Alcohol's a good thing. Not so much. At the age of 17, I left home. And this was because I was now drinking and doing drugs and, of course, going against family rules. Now, Brian and Christine loved me, but I couldn't be at home doing the things I was doing. So I left home. Now, to be honest with you, there was a voice inside my head that said, you got rid of me, just like everybody else did. It took you guys a little bit longer, but you got rid of me because I wasn't good enough. Again, because of the way I acted, because of the way I felt, I jumped to the conclusion I wasn't good enough and nobody wanted me. Here I was this bad kid that never ate his food. I was this bad kid that was constantly throwing his clothes on the floor. I was this bad kid that was running around the house screaming and yelling and not listening, never going to school on time, not getting his homework done. Of course, why would you want me? So I left. Fine. Went into work. Now work will be fine, because now I'm done school. I didn't graduate, but whatever, that's fine. Go into work. I thought things were going to be different, but they weren't. You see, all that information overload that I had in the school, in the classroom, I now had in the workplace. Instead of teachers, I now had supervisors. Instead of students, there were coworkers. There was still bubble trouble. There was still information overload and sensory overload. All those problems that I had, they didn't go away once I left school. They continued to stay with me. Now, add on top of that, here I am, 17 years old, waking up, going for a walk. But today, when I get up, I have to grab my leg and I have to put my knee back into joint. And I take a step or two and realize, oh, my other knee's out. I'll put that one back into place. That's normal. It's okay. Then I go walk. And I walk for a little bit, and all of a sudden my legs are too tired, and I can't walk today. That's weird. I remember last week I was in a race with all my friends. We were running down the field, and I won the race because I was the fastest out of all of us. And today I can't walk. Oh well, must be normal. A couple days later, walking down the street, hanging out with my friends, and I go, oh, my heart just stopped. Okay, it's going. All right, let's go. Must be normal. So nobody's telling me it's not. I'm sure this is something everybody must experience. Days where you can't walk, times where your heart stops, your joints hurt. Oh, that must just be normal. I thought it was. The tough problem about that was, who was I going to turn to tell, oh, I was having all these physical problems? The guy that I'm hanging out with in the park? You think he's really going to care? Maybe Tom over there, who I'm going to buy that bag of weed off of. After I buy the weed, I can sit down and go, so let's talk about some of my physical issues that I'm having here, because I'm sure he cares. No. You see, all these physical issues really started to show as a teenager. But here I was, out in this big world, trying to make it on my own. One of the things with FASD is that the maturity level and comprehension level can quite often be quite a bit lower. For me, I was 17, 18 years old, but in most areas was functioning maybe at a 11, 12-year-old. So picture this 12-year-old out on the street, living by himself in a park. I don't know how to cook, I don't know how to eat, which is okay because I don't get the sensation to eat, so it's fine. Although, how do you think my health was when, first off, I'm living in a world that's full of drugs and alcohol, I'm not sleeping properly, and second off, I'm not eating properly. Every 3 days when my stomach goes, hey, psst, maybe we should eat today. Oh, well, I don't really have any food to eat. We're living in a park. Oh, okay. Again, those secondary things were playing a big role. Here I was, all these other issues going on, added on top of all my physical issues. When I was out with the group of people I was hanging out with, one day we were doing stuff we shouldn't have been doing, and the train came by, and so we ran to go catch the train so that we could get out of where we were so we didn't get caught. Now, I'm a very fast runner, and I loved running. And so here we go, we'd start taking off, and I would get way ahead of everybody else until we got to stairs. You see, I can't go up and down stairs because my depth perception is so off that I will sprint, and then I get to the stairs and I have to. Meanwhile, they're running up, running past, going, what are you doing? So they started to make fun of me and joke around and be like, we found your kryptonite. Stairs. I never do this. I never understood it. I just was like, why can't I go upstairs? I cannot. If I try to run upstairs, I will fall every single time. If I try to go downstairs fast, I will fall every single time. I have to look, see, step, proceed. Look, see, step, proceed. Again, didn't think anything of it, just thought, okay, it's kind of weird, but whatever. Didn't understand that it's my depth perception is off. Now, as I started to go through all these issues and all these things that were happening in life and try to see where I was in life and what was going on, I started to think, okay, I've got to find out about myself. I got to learn more about myself. So I thought maybe I'll learn about my family. So here I was, decided I'd find my biological family. Now, unfortunately, when I found my biological family, I ended up finding out that my brothers and sisters were scattered all throughout Canada. And when we came together, it just didn't really have the greatest relationship. And ended up finding out that both my parents had passed away. So I never had an opportunity to meet them. So that wasn't going to work. How do I find out about me? How do I understand me? I kept pushing on, kept thinking, okay, there's got to be more to life. I can't just live in this world that's full of addictions and struggles and all these hardships. So I kept pushing forward. I ended up going to a conference on FASD. And I spoke at this conference and shared a little bit about myself, about some of the struggles that I've been through in life, but also some of the strategies I put in place. You know, like understanding routine and repetition was good for me. If I did the same things over, I was successful. I found out that I was putting different tools in place. You see, one of the things that I did was I have a fidget ring. So this ring spins and turns. Something like that helps me control that bubble trouble. All those bubbles in my body, I can bring them down a lot more by just having something in my hand that I focus with. So when I do my public speaking, I use a handheld mic. That way, again, brings those bubbles in, but I can also walk around. Now I'm not running around, but yet I can let those bubbles go a little bit and control it. So here I was learning about some of the strategies and techniques I was putting in place. Then one day, attending a conference, and I heard Liz Lorick speaking about full body diagnosis. For the first time in my life, it made sense to me that bubble trouble, what I called a bubble trouble, was making sense. And then I realized, no wonder I can't get to anywhere on time. You see, when I sleep at night, those bubbles don't stop. They're constantly going. So I never sleep. It wasn't until my early 30s, where I'd met with a doctor and we talked and figured some things out, that I got a prescription to help me sleep at night. And for the first time in my life, I slept. It was amazing, but again, I thought, how unfortunate. 30 years I didn't sleep. But we found these tools and put them in place. I started to understand more about FASD and started working with Liz and saying, okay, so this is what's going on for me. Oh, well, this is that, and making those connections. That, yes, your body has developed differently because of the FASD. When I understood this, I was able to go, okay, so it makes sense. Like I said, there's a lot of stigmas, and there's a lot of things out there about FASD that people with FASD won't be successful, and they won't be able to do things in life. Now, did I struggle in my life? Absolutely, I did. But when I understood what FASD was and how it played a role in my life, when I made sense of FASD, I made sense of myself. Then I was able to accept FASD and understand it's part of me. It affects the way that my body's developed and the way that it grows, but it doesn't define me. What defines me? What defines me is I've come from this person with all these struggles and all these issues and, homeless and addictions and all these things to I am now over 4 years sober. I have traveled around the world educating people on what it's like for me to live with FASD. I'm a motivational speaker. I've had many successes in my life because that's what defines me. I understand me. I understand FASD, but I'm more than just FASD. When I understood that, I understood myself. And all those names in my head, I didn't have to have them anymore. All those bad labels, I didn't have to have them anymore because instead of looking at a bad behavior, I was able to understand where it was coming from and go, okay, it makes sense. It's not that it's a bad behavior. This is what's going on for me. So now I can bring those proper supports into place. So let's go get, whatever stuff it is that I need to help with my body so that I can feel good and have a good, healthy body and live a good, healthy life. I'd like to turn it back to Liz now. Thank you.